I respawned. He fell off again. Track them. Oh. That stupid cow, get off the car. Let's see. There we go. Splat it. How the hell do you constantly get stuck in the weirdest places there? Let me squish you. No. Okay, I have a sheep and a cow stuck to my car. There we go. Shrek them. Spawned. Come on, give me a head on. Thanks, cow. There. Squished him. Fucking ripped his gore pile in the cockpit. Yeah, instead of DeLorean, it's called DeGorian.
Degorian.
What the hell is that paint shop? Paint boat? Keep it so for the DeLorean look. No, and it's gone again. Why does it crash so much now?
Probably modern
I blame
hardware.
Willa.
Eh.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm also using a mod, but yeah.
Oi.
Absolute chaos. My points. I don't know, I just find it amusing how the guy says it. Yoink.
Yoink.
Are you sure you're violent with a game like that is intended for your audience as well? Squish.
Squish.
Flattened. Yoink. What's this event? Ah, Crusher. Oh, what the?
Already wanna come up? Whoa!
Killed himself, nice. What the hell? What is happening, guys? So the explosions. Oh, he had the solid granite car. It's like wondering why is he pushing everybody around so easily. That. Holy shit. Damn, that was a chaotic one. Oh, and crash again. It feels like so. I think every time I modify a vehicle and all, it seems to crash and all. Maybe I just leave the car's default by now.
You're breaking the game already.
We blame Grill.
No.
As long as you didn't close the window, it should insta reconnect you back to the stream. Right.
No, I gotta click it again. I'm not really closing the window. Oops.
Well, normally shouldn't do that. Well, unless it's only for one person or something. You hit the checkpoint, nice. Hey girl, you always say you love your rooftop races too, don't you?
Hell yeah.
Oh fuck, jelly suspension. There's literally nothing left of the car except for the turbine. He's just pancake. Or the upper half is missing. Yeah, the upper half is just missing. All stretched out and shit. Ow! Ow! Fuck! Drop down. Oh, what the hell? Imagine if this game had like the flat out style explosions.
With more explodey bits.
Oh. Absolute chaos. Oh, bitch. Good thing I have the repairs. Ooh, perfect. Glad I don't squished him. Oh shit.
And that goat scream is getting really fucking annoying.
Also,
I've heard it way too many times.
actually, I wanted to just go in reverse and steal some laps by crashing. Shit. No, no wheels.
So did you beat Rogue, or now there's still a lot more to
Yeah.
do? Oh.
Well, I beat like the game with multiple runs already, but yeah, there's like still like things to unlock and all, like some weapons and all, some cars and
Okay.
oh shit. The acceleration this thing is absolutely insane. That's just it's so hard to control. What? Gotta restart. I think I'm faster to complete this event if I just race along rather than trying to wreck the others here. It's such a short track. Lol. Squish. Yeah. Squish. He fucking survived.
What you want, me little demon baby? Whoa! Big ass file, man.
What do you mean?
Like whenever it gets too big, like saving takes a while.
No. Fucking stats on that thing. Top speed 1609 kilometers per hour. And accelerates from 0 to 60 in 0.19 seconds. Let's see. Is it gonna crash?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, well, guess I'll take a break for now.
So as with a lot of these types of games, a lot of stuff has already happened before you even jump in and start killing things. On the day of creation, on the first day, humans were given souls, and with them, clarity. But the humans started deviating from the reason they were given souls, and they began messing around with something called the soul arts, and used them to harness the power of magic. A magic called soul power, which involves sorcery and miracles. They used this power to fight one another, and to try and seize one another's power. Humans who mastered the soul arts were mages who themselves became the masters of their world. However, their incessant messing with the soul arts and their hunger for more power would have far-reaching consequences. This leads us on to the Old One. God saw the damage that was being committed, so on the second day, he created the Old One. The Old One is a serpent-like entity which is made up from trees, plants, and nature. The Old One is also the original demon, a poison, and would become the source of power for the soul arts. The Old One was in a slumber state for many, many years, just waiting for the moment that it is awakened and can unleash itself upon the world. Due to their connection to the Old One, these soul arts woke up the Old One, and a deep fog enveloped the world. The first time this happened led to what was known as the First Scourge. One of the Old One's purposes is to create other powerful demons, whose sole purpose, pun not intended, is to consume the souls of living beings, all driven by the insatiable hunger of their master, who is a bottomless pit of, well, nothingness. You see, the soul is a life source, and losing one's soul will result in the owner of said soul descending into madness and becoming soul-starved. This results in that person attacking anything on sight, as they attempt to regain their own soul and to restore their sanity. The demons themselves would devour these souls, and these souls would create a larger soul, known as a demon's soul. When the fog covered Boletaria and the land was cut off from the outside world, the humans fought to defend their lands against demons. Those who bravely ventured into the fog to help would never return. They eventually managed to place the Old One back into its slumber. However, as a result of the First Scourge, the damage was done. The world was still riddled with demons, and the humans' fight was far from over. There weren't many lands left, so in an attempt to put things back together, if you like, was to create 6 archstones, creating a link between these lands, entrusting the archstones to 6 leaders in these lands. These 6 archstones were the Archstone of the Covetous King in the Boletarian Palace, the Archstone of the Digger King in the Stonefang Tunnels, the Archstone of the Tower Queen in the Tower of Latria, the Archstone of the Giants in the Northern Lands, the Archstone of the Shadowmen at the Shrine of Storm, and the Archstone of the Chieftain in the Valley of Defilement. When the Old One was placed back into its slumber, it was sealed inside a place called the Nexus. The Nexus was a conduit for which these lands would be linked. It would also be a temple by which souls in the northern lands of Boletaria would be able to move between the different lands to search for their physical bodies. The people who managed this would tie themselves to the Nexus and would give up their humanity, becoming half-living sentinels of the fabric of reality. Their goal now was to protect it should the need arise, and to warn future generations of what can happen whilst waiting for the Slayer of Demons to arrive. The practice of soul arts was also banned by the Monumentals, and it was to be a prohibited form of magic. Given the consequences, that is understandable. But humanity never learns.
We neutralized the Old One and banned the soul arts. Then we spread the Archstones, and in order to mend reality, Monumentals we became. However, man's memory of history is ever short, and before long he repeated his mistakes. The Monumentals perished, and the Archstones were long forgotten.
Thousands of years after the First Scourge had ravaged the lands, one kingdom in particular was doing quite well. This was the kingdom of Boletaria, whose ruler was King Allant XII. He was by all accounts a good king. He loved his subjects and made sure his kingdom was fiercely defended. One day, King Allant, along with his brother Rydell, discovered the Nexus, and there, inside the Nexus, was a blind demon called the Maiden in Black. She taught King Allant all about the soul arts, and King Allant took this knowledge back to Boletaria with him. News of these soul arts carried throughout the kingdoms until the prohibition on this form of magic was lifted, and it was now being used freely once again. Boletaria itself had begun to thrive. It prospered. Life was pretty good in the kingdom of Boletaria. But King Allant had other ideas. He became of the idea that in order to save humanity, he had to end it. He took a sword, appropriately named Soulbrant, and went back to the Nexus. That's right, instead of the Old One being awakened through the soul arts being used, it was instead awakened by King Allant himself. His idea was that the Old One would feast upon all of the human souls, therefore ending their very existence. King Allant then decided to head deep inside the Old One, and as a result of the immense power that the Old One gave him, he became a demon, but due to his body not being a suitable vessel for demon power, this turned him into a horrific blob of flesh. The power that he did have allowed him to create a demon in his previous image, just as powerful, and that King Allant would be the leader of the demon armies put in place to ensure that his plan was set in motion, and this led to the second Scourge. Due to the fog now coming back, the people inside were bound to it, or until the fog was lifted. This now leads us to the knight known as Valafax. He was one of the Twin Fangs, two warriors who were part of King Allant's round table, with the other warrior being named Bior. With Bior staying behind to protect the kingdom, Valafax was able to find a way out of the fog via a fissure and took the news of what had happened in Boletaria to other kingdoms. Word of what had happened, along with the disappearance of King Allant, would reach other kingdoms and other lands. In response to this, various knights, priests, and nobles set out for the kingdom of Boletaria. In the meantime, one of the 6 lands, the land of the giants, was overrun, and even after Boletaria sent thousands of knights, it fell to the demons. The Archstone was destroyed in order to try and contain it, but this did not work. But there is hope. A lone warrior approaches the fog. This person, the Slayer of Demons, hears a female voice which addresses them as the brave soul who does not fear death, that she will guide the Slayer in order to lull the Old One back to its slumber. The Slayer then steps through the fissure and arrives at an outpost. They step out into the botanical gardens of the Boletarian Palace. Fighting various dredgelings and Boletarian soldiers, the Slayer walks through a fog gate and comes face to face with a massive creature, the Vanguard Demon. The Slayer tries their best to defeat it, but succumbs and dies. The Slayer then finds themselves in the Nexus. The Nexus is considered to be a sacred place that holds together the northern lands of Boletaria. Remember I mentioned the Archstones? Well, the Nexus is sort of like a conduit for these Archstones. Think of it like a central hub. The woman speaks again and says that the soul of the lost is drawn from its vessel. Let strength be granted so the world may be mended. And this woman is the woman in black. She was one of the Old One's most dangerous and deadly demons, but she now resides inside the Nexus, desperate to place the Old One back into its slumber. She appears to have been blinded by candle wax, and she is tasked with keeping the Nexus well lit. She's been there in the Nexus for a very long time, bound to it by a nexial binding which is visible around her ankle. She's able to absorb the souls of humans via Soul Sucker, where she is able to withdraw a soul from its vessel, and she is also able to use souls to bestow power upon someone else. She tells the Slayer that the 5 Archstones will guide them to the Outer Lands. For now, the Slayer is in soul form, manifested as a result of their soul being tethered to the Nexus. Only by obtaining a demon's soul can the Slayer regain their corporeal form. Also here in the Nexus are a few individuals. One is a crestfallen warrior. He is depressed and has given up on his quest to slay demons. He doesn't trust the Monumental, given the fact that he's been bound to the Nexus. One of the first things he says to the Slayer is to warn them about the soul arts, that the more power the Maiden in Black bestows upon them, the more of their humanity they will lose. He also sees the Monumentals as fools for their role in awakening the Old One. There is also Blacksmith Baldwin. He used to work in the Stonefang tunnels as a blacksmith but fled the Nexus when the fog came. He wears a weapon named Hand of God. There's Stockpile Thomas. Thomas is a widower, and his family, his wife and daughter, were killed at the Boletarian Palace when the fog came. He carries immense guilt as he abandoned them and fled to the Nexus, his injuries being tended to by the Maiden in Black. And finally, for now at least, there's the Worshipper of God. She follows the church and a man named Saint Urbain, and she is a relatively new convert. She used to live below the Boletarian castle when King Allant left on his journey when he found the Nexus, and when the demons came she fled to the Nexus with what she thinks was the help of her father's miracle stone shard. But more on the church and Saint Urbain later. Touching the first Archstone, the Slayer travels to the Boletarian Palace. Upon arriving, the dangers present become very real. It seems that in the chaos, 2 dragons have made the Boletarian palace their home. Dredgelings also roam the grounds equipped with swords and shields, but their weakness is easily exploited. They are soul-starved, hungry for souls to devour and to give back to their masters. The palace is heavily destroyed. To the left of the entrance are the execution grounds. The executioner is named Meralda. She was renowned for being a complete nutcase and is extremely dangerous. She uses her power to command the souls of the people she's executed by summoning them as black phantoms. The Slayer soon finds Stockpile Thomas's wife and daughter hanging from the ramparts, and cutting them down, the Slayer retrieves a jade hair ornament, something typically worn by lowly commoners. A large gate is firmly shut. This is the way forward, so the Slayer must find a noblemen who are loyal to King Allant and who are now strengthened by the demon souls. With swords and shields crafted from the finest and strongest ores from the Stonefang mine, they are certainly a tough adversary. The Slayer also comes across a dredgeling that is not hostile. This one still has its sanity. And it's also not long until the Slayer comes across someone who is in a spot of bother. This is Ostrava of Boletaria. He has travelled from the southern kingdom of Latria in order to find his father. The Slayer can of course kill Ostrava, but for the sake of lore and story, he will save him. After rescuing Ostrava, he thanks the Slayer and walks off to continue his quest. Finding a way through the area and avoiding the dragon's fire, the Slayer manages to get the gate open, and a massive spear flies through the doorway. Heading through the now open gate, the Slayer faces off against a massive mound of flesh, surrounded by its minions called hoplites. This is the demon Phalanx. It's the corrupted soul of one of King Allant's 3 famed warriors, Longbow Ulan. She was an archer who used a special bow, the White Bow. She was viewed as somewhat of a coward, as she would stay far behind her troops so as to avoid being harmed. This demon, and it being protected by hoplites, is a representation of that, a mirror of her soul itself. Taking out all of the hoplites exposes the now defenseless Phalanx, and the Slayer disposes of the demon, taking its souls and the power within, and thus restoring the Slayer back to his corporeal form. Returning to the Nexus, the Maiden in Black directs the Slayer to speak with a Monumental. Ascending the Nexus, all the Monumentals have perished, except one. This Monumental explains what happened during the first Scourge, the Soul Arts and the Old One. The 4 remaining Archstones have now been unsealed. The Monumental offers the Slayer a quest, to lull the Old One back to its slumber, and to seal it away for all eternity, to prevent the deep fog from consuming everything. Let's look at some more people in the Nexus. On one side you have the religious people, the church, and on the other side you have the mages and the witches. Neither can bear to look at the other, hence why they separate themselves. In terms of the church,
a miracle is a heavenly act, but spells are the acts of demons, the work of soul arts. They have similar effects, and yet one is clearly evil, and the other is clearly good. Magicians, in the end, are mere servants of the demons.
And in terms of the magicians,
Master Frake is a great man who has systemized the magic of the soul arts to make it possible for human imitation. By observing the state of Boletaria and the demons within it, he is likely to pave the way for greater things. All the more reason that I must meet Master Frake as soon as possible.
the magician asks the Slayer to save his master, Sage Frake. He says he's the hope for mankind. One of the followers of God, the Acolyte, also mentions that he abandoned Saint Urbain somewhere out of fear. From here, the Slayer can go about their business however they wish, but for the sake of a coherent storyline, I'll be tackling this video in sections, like so. But as with all my videos, feel free to navigate the video using the chapters below. Heading forward from the Phalanx Archstone, the Slayer must progress across a path to the next section of the palace. It's once again showing signs of conflict, and Dredgelings, knights and human soldiers await. The dragon is once again back, and hungry. The Slayer has to run fast in order to avoid being roasted alive by the dragon's breath. If the Slayer is feeling particularly bold, they can stand and shoot the dragon with its arrows until it falls, and they retrieve its soul, the very powerful Crimson Drake soul. Once again, the Slayer comes across Ostrava. He needs help again, so after helping, once again, Ostrava thanks the Slayer and then heads off to continue his quest and to search for his father. Defeating 2 blue-eyed knights and heading through a fog gate, the Slayer of Demons comes face to face with the fearsome Tower Knight. Behind the Tower Knight is one of many Fat Officials. Fat Officials were the torment of the villagers of Boletaria shortly after the Second Scourge. The Tower Knight itself is the corrupted soul of the second of King Alant's warriors, Albert, the Knight of the Tower. The colourless fog has resulted in Albert's soul, which left his body after he was slain in the Lord's Path, becoming a 30-foot knight. Equipped with a massive shield and lance, he attempts to prevent the Slayer from reaching the inner ward. Taking out the archers that flank the Tower Knight, the Slayer takes the hulking monstrosity down. However, the Slayer cannot progress beyond this fog gate, as it requires the soul of an archdemon. Returning to the Nexus after this and speaking with the crestfallen warrior, he mentions his rotting corpse being somewhere there in the Boletarian Palace, but then due to his body rotting away, he starts losing all of his memories, even forgetting who the Slayer is, and later on, he is gone only for his warrior soul to be left behind. The Slayer then visits the Stonefang Tunnels. The tunnels, also known as Tunnel City thanks to their maze-like structure, are essentially an excavation site under the control of King Alant. The actual city of Stonefang can be seen in the distance. A city of miners and blacksmiths, as depicted on the Archstone. Stonefang was the site that provided the materials needed to produce weapons and armour for soldiers and knights of Boletaria, and as such the miners of Stonefang were extremely dedicated to their craft, devoting their lives to it. Their stubbornness to continue to work despite the colourless fog saw them become soulless husks lacking sentience. Their appearance changed as they became more dragon-like, and they continued to hack and chisel away in the tunnels even to this day. The tunnels are rumoured to be located above the shrine of an ancient dragon god, which was said to have been worshipped. As well as that, it's said that the flames from which blacksmithing began in Stonefang came from a beast, a fire demon that lurks below in an underground temple. Fat officials have been placed in charge of the workers at the tunnels. They are to effectively oversee the workers and the mining of ore, which, as previously mentioned, was to be used for weapons and armour. They utilise a whip in order to encourage the miners to work harder. They are also used as security in order to stop unauthorised people from entering the mine, and I guess to stop those unauthorised people from stealing the mine's resources. Arriving, the Slayer materials from the mine in exchange for souls. It's considered that he obtained these materials that he sells by stealing them from the miners who are too busy working in order to notice. One thing he mentions is that he knows the location of a crystal lizard nest, but he refuses to tell the Slayer where it is because, of course, that would be bad for business. Anyway, avoiding being squashed by huge boulders, the Slayer enters the mine. The workers are busy, in some ways too busy to notice that someone is present, although some take exception to the Slayer's presence. They are, of course, being watched, being made to work by fat officials, and there's a few present inside the mine. Making their way through it, fighting off any workers that attack, and seeing the bodies of other demon slayers that have attempted to pass through, and meeting Blacksmith Ed, who is the brother of Blacksmith Baldwin in the Nexus, the Slayer manages to douse a large amount of lava blocking the way forward. In doing so, comes to an area covered in spiders' webs, a grim indication of what is to come. The Slayer needs to battle and defeat the armor spider. It's not clear where this horrible beastie comes from, but it's clear that it's guarding the entrance to Tunnel City. It's a tough foe and uses fireballs along with its pincers to attack the Slayer, but eventually he is able to defeat it. Pushing forward into the Tunnel City, the Slayer finds more miners hard at work. He encounters 2 Black Phantoms. Black Phantoms are basically the malicious forms of a soul, which will attack and kill living beings in order to obtain souls. The Slayer also discovers the crystal lizard mine that the filthy man was talking about. It's easy to see why he chose not to tell the Slayer where it was. Lots of valuable minerals here. At the heart of Tunnel City is the Molten Swamp, rumoured to be a grave for dragons. It's here that the Slayer meets Patches, nicknamed the Hyena. Patches is a thief, and he likes to screw people over, setting traps for them in the hope that they will die, and then he would pick their corpse for treasure to sell. He tries this with the Slayer by trapping them behind a bugbear, but getting out, the Slayer can confront Patches, who, impressed the Slayer survived, gives him a flame resistance ring. After this, the Slayer pushes on and continues, carefully descending down into a chasm, and at the bottom encounters another fog gate. He walks through it. This fiery monstrosity is the Flame Lurker. This fight takes place in the underground temple that was mentioned on the Stonefang Tunnel Archstone. The Flame Lurker is the fire demon that is spoken of. It had been imprisoned there in the temple's prison, I guess. Now, given that Stonefang itself was a city, and that the guards of Boletaria moved in and took control of the mine, it could be that they imprisoned the Flame Lurker, but who knows, it's all theories when it comes to this beast. It's there in the temple, which itself was constructed for the worship of the dragon god. What's interesting though is what is located nearby. A corpse on the ground which has two items, melee fist weapons called Hands of God. These Hands of God speak of the legendary Big M who lived long ago. Big M, it seems, used his fists along with the Hands of God to slaughter dragons. It's certainly possible that this is the arena in which Big M would fight dragons to the death, maybe even for sport, and is perhaps his final resting place. One theory behind the Flame Lurker is that it is the demon-possessed spirit of Big M. What makes this more plausible is that the Flame Lurker uses his fists to great effect, and being hit by them is brutal. As for appearance, in the remake, the Flame Lurker looks more beastly. In the original PS3 version though, his face seems to be a little more human, and somewhat resembles the king depicted on the Archstone. It's also possible that since Blacksmith Ed and Blacksmith Baldwin have one Hand of God each, they could be the descendants of Big M himself. Blacksmith Baldwin, though, speaks of how powerful his brother is.
I'm pretty strong myself, but even I don't compare to Ed. He's a beast, I tell you. The man must eat dragon tails and wrestle stones. If you heed my advice, you avoid crossing him. I reckon he'd prove a lot more trouble than most demons.
Anyway, after a tough fight against the fearsome Flame Lurker, avoiding being burned alive, the Slayer kills it and obtains the demon's soul. Another interesting thing is that a sarcophagus lies there in the temple, and this could link into the king of the Burrowers that is mentioned by the Monumental. It could also be that the Flame Lurker was the king of Stonefang. Moving forward and into the temple itself, the Slayer hears a deep breathing coming from behind a fog gate. Pushing through it, he sees the dragon god, the deity that was revered by the people of Stonefang. Its physical appearance was manifested as a result of the fog developing these lands, and came about from the large dragon bones in and around the temple, which the city's burrowers had likely stumbled upon at some point, coming to revere and worship the dragon god, taking care to maintain the shrine itself. It's almost as if the dragon god's manifestation came about from the legend thought up by the burrowers at Stonefang. In terms of the shrine though, it does seem however that there should be an elevator leading to the bottom of the chasm, but either one was not built, or it was removed after the fog came and the dragon god came to be, as a way to stop people from going down into the shrine, but again that's just a theory. The bones of the dragons are said to contain ores.
Ores are transmogrified spirits. Their presence blesses the weapon.
Bones of the dragons exude ore.
We can see from going down into the crystal lizard nest that the ores in the nest are coming from the bones, and it seems that the crystal lizards feasted on these ores, resulting in them growing out of their bodies. But back to the dragon god. It's angry, but the Slayer now needs to claim its soul. To the left-hand path, the Slayer can find a strange sword, seemingly useless as it's blunt. Moving to the right, the Slayer has to avoid the dragon's gaze, and force his way through to the other side where a giant ballista awaits. It shoots a magical arrow at the dragon and impales its left-hand side. Pushing to the other side of the area, the Slayer fires another ballista and impales the other side of the dragon. The massive beast collapses onto a ledge, and going down to it, the Slayer finishes the dragon god off, claiming the soul of this archdemon. This demon's soul can be used to channel the soul arts via magic and the firestorm spell, in which the caster creates a storm made up of fire, channeled from the power of the dragon god itself. After this, the Slayer can come across a man named Scriveer. He's a wanderer and has a keen interest in treasure. One in particular that he's interested in there in Stonefang is a sword, but Scriveer was too scared to go down to the temple area. Can't blame him, to be fair. The Slayer shows Scriveer the sword he got from the temple, and he examines it.
Oh, wonderful. The arts of swordsmanship applied in a perfectly useless manner. Look at that. Oh, don't mind me, thank you. It was a pleasure. Please take this as a small show of thanks. Take care of this one, will you? She's a stunner.
The sword itself is described as something that was used against the demons, but one that is mocked by local blacksmiths. One interesting point to finish on is that blacksmith Ed appears to have scales on him, indicating that when the fog came and he refused to leave, he started the process of transforming. This is in contrast to Baldwin, who doesn't appear to have as many scales, as Baldwin of course fled to the Nexus. Anyhow, with the Archdemon's soul obtained, the Slayer leaves the Stonefang tunnels. The next destination is Latria. Heading to the Archstone of the Tower Queen, the Slayer has now arrived in Latria. So the point of entry is the Prison of Hope, although there doesn't seem to be much hope here at all. The location itself is mainly based around a tower, which seems to be of great importance to the area. As seen from the carvings on the Archstone, it seems to be a place of nobility and riches, where learned people gathered and studied. What were they studying? Well, that's anyone's guess, but most likely alchemy and magic, and more importantly, the soul arts. Hell, the nobles even wore jewelry that would help them extract even more souls from the dead. It does appear that the many torture devices in the prison indicate a much darker element to this place. But let's go back to what the Monumental said regarding Latria.
One to the wise queen of the great ivory tower.
He speaks of a queen. This queen is depicted on the Archstone as having a halo around her head. The Tower of Latria was built for Queen Yormadar. The queen ruled, and the prince consort, I guess, her husband, sat alongside her. Her kingdom included, as discussed, a prison, a church, and of course the ivory tower. But all was not rosy.
The queen banished that depraved old man from the land. He returned in strange golden garb with foul demons in tow. They pillaged great Latria, land of the learned, and shut us away in this prison. Since then, they've been feeding off our souls, telling us over and over that if we go above, we will be granted redemption. I know the truth. The church goddess may die, but never for long. We are trapped below forever.
As an act of revenge for her banishing him, the man, now going by the Old Monk, had the Queen's family locked away in the prison and Latria fell. It's possible that the people came to try and save the nobility too. We'll uncover more story as the Slayer progresses through Latria. Leaving the cell, the Slayer soon comes across creatures that the Old Monk brought back to Latria. These are mind flayers, and they are incredibly dangerous. Using their magic, they can paralyze someone and then use their tentacles to remove the victim's brain, killing them, or at least severely injuring them. The cells are full of people kept prisoner there. There are also various torture devices, no doubt used by the Old Monk's demons. In one of the cells, the Slayer can meet the former noble's wife.
I've known better days. I was once the wife of nobility, and I have some nice things to show for it.
The noble's wife sells some interesting things, one of which is the Ring of Avarice, which, like the silver bracelets, allows for increased souls to be collected from fallen foes. She also has something called Widow's Lotus, something that counteracts plague, but we'll explore that a bit further into this section. From the look of the noble wife's face, it seems that she's been the subject of heavy torture. There are two more people that the Slayer can find. One is Sage Frake, the Visionary.
I am Frake. I have been trapped here for an age. Perhaps you could help me out of here. I am a sage, and I can lend you my power in return. Oh, but take heed of those tentacle-headed guards.
If freeing him, he heads back to the Nexus and gives a bit of information about himself if the Slayer is somewhat proficient in magic.
Could you bring your demon souls to me? As I determine more about the essence of the soul, I can teach you new magic. A demon's soul is no mere amalgamation of lesser souls. You have your wits about you. Surely you understand.
He continues on and mentions the Old Monk and his power.
I was defeated and captured by the Golden Usurper past that cell. Be wary of him, for he manipulates souls. He has power over vile, murky souls, those susceptible to madness and paranoia.
The apprentice also tells us a little bit about Sage Frake.
Master Frake is a great man who has systemized the magic of the soul arts to make it possible for human imitation. By observing the state of Boletaria and the demons within it. He is likely to pave the way for greater things.
It's possible that he used to be part of the church, but he seems obsessed with dark magic, indicating that at one point he turned his back on the church as he speaks against them rather passionately.
You have a connection to the disciples. Do not pay any attention to them if they speak poorly of me and my magic. Prayer is for the foolish, quaint, and soon to be dead.
He thinks that the ability to use soul arts is due to the presence of the Old One. But moving on, the Slayer can also meet and free Lord Rydell, who remember is King Allant's brother. It seems that whoever put Rydell there in that cell intended for him to suffer.
You are a sane one, are you not? My name is Rydell. Please, liberate me from this jail. I have precious little time. I must retrieve an article from my corpse. As you can see, the only thing that remains of me is my soul. My corpse lies in another cell. I fancy it a fine, rotten mess by now. I've no interest in my corporeal flesh, but I left upon my person a keepsake of my late wife. I will soon fade into the beyond. My only wish is to do so near that token of my beloved.
It's unclear as to who Lord Rydell's wife is, but some speculate on the Soul's Law Wikidot that it could be the Queen, and that the old monk locked Rydell in there to punish him. Right, so regarding plague, so the prisons seem to hold a fair amount of now dead thieves and assassins. There's a weapon obtained in the prison called the Baby's Nail, and its blade is coated in a substance that afflicts the victim with plague. Approaching the church, the Slayer is confronted by the black phantom of an assassin who is using one of these plague-coated blades. Defeating her, the Slayer can go up a spiral staircase and into the upper levels of the church, and on one side finds a dead body wearing an assassin's outfit. The fact that this assassin is found here may indicate that the noble people were being targeted in particular by these assassins, which as well is probably why the nobles have Widow's Lotus and Noble's Lotus on them, which counteracts poison. The balcony here is a mess, indicating that a fight took place, and the other corpse there has a silver catalyst on it, which of course is something given to magicians of Yormadar's school of magic. On the other side of the upper level, the Slayer can come across a man performing a ritual, and he seems very focused. He describes himself as a humble servant. The Slayer can choose whether to leave him be or to kill him, which leads us on to the first boss of Latria, the Fool's Idol. Entering the church through the main doors, the Slayer encounters a doll in the likeness of the Queen. It contains her soul, but it's now being controlled by the old monk. According to the Soul Ray spell, the Queen was once a gifted sorceress. Scattered around the church are prisoners who are convinced that the Fool's Idol is the real Queen, and therefore appear to approach her with reverence. And judging from the stained glass windows in the church, she was worshipped by her subjects. The prisoners are out of their cells for a reason which we'll get to in a minute, but the Slayer cracks on and battles the Fool's Idol. This doll has the ability to use magic, which is why it seems that the Queen's soul is inside the doll, and she has the ability to replicate herself, which can also confuse the Slayer. She also manages to set paralyzing tiles on the floor, freezing the Slayer in place, much like the way the Mind Flayers do. Discovering the real doll though, the Slayer takes her down. Now, if the liar on the church balcony was not taken care of either, his spell that he is casting will actually resurrect her, restarting the fight. Afterwards, with her demon soul in his possession, the Slayer approaches the altar, but is carried off high up into the tower by gargoyles. According to the Archstone, a deep malice awaited the prisoners who were in the church and who were carried up into the tower. We're about to see what that means. Traversing the perilously high walkways of Upper Latria, the Slayer fights off numerous gargoyles, which were of course under the control of the old monk. The Slayer then spots a large beating mass of flesh in the distance. Fleshy parts coming to and from the mass are blocking the way forward, so the Slayer needs to destroy it. It's being held up by huge chains. Proceeding up a tower, at the top he finds 4 men up there, chanting and seemingly imbuing the chains with added strength. Taking these people out, the chain breaks. That's 1 down, 1 more to go. Dropping down on another platform, the Slayer sees a man inside a cage. His name is Yurt. He asks if the Slayer is there to fight the demons, and if so, to let him out of the cage. The Slayer can choose whether or not to, but that's a choice we'll refer back to later on in the video. But for now, the Slayer descends in another of the cages and arrives in a grotesque swamp at the bottom of Upper Latria. The creatures there are the fruits of the old monk's experiments. What he was trying to create here is anyone's guess. It's clear that the prisoners were being lured into the church. The fool's idol appearing as their queen gave them brief hope, but after being carried off by gargoyles, they were meshed together into centipedes, into these monstrosities, and they were discarded. Making his way through the fleshy swamp, the Slayer eventually ascends a second tower, and just like before, takes out the 4 men strengthening the chains. The second chain snaps, and the mass of flesh drops, smashing into the bottom of the tower. Many creatures emerge from it. With the path now cleared, the Slayer ascends the winding staircase up to the top of the tower. Here we meet another of the old monk's creations. Before the Slayer can ascend to the throne room, he must defeat not 1 but 2 monstrosities called man-eaters. These things are clearly some kind of experiment carried out by the old monk too, as they are a mashup of many different things. They have a man's face, wings, and a snake tail, although during the battle it seems that the serpent is acting independently of the man-eater, as it will bite the beast. This stuns the man-eater temporarily, but it makes it more powerful as a result. After defeating these 2 mugs, their soul can be used to create the agony needle. This weapon has barbs on it and hooks into the flesh, stealing souls. It's indicated here that this could be related to what we see the serpent tail doing to the man-eaters. The Slayer can then ascend to the top of the throne room where the old monk resides, wearing his golden shawl that the former noble's wife spoke of earlier on. What's clear is that this robe is both powerful and dangerous. It had been able to keep the old monk alive despite the fact that he'd been withering away. And as we saw, he summoned a black phantom he'd enslaved, and the robe attached itself and the old monk's soul to the next most powerful evil there, the Black Phantom. The Slayer then enters the throne room and battles the Old Monk 2.0. Whilst that's going on, let's talk about the Old Monk, and more specifically the golden or yellow shawl. The yellow shawl seems to be a reference to Hastur, or the King in Yellow. Hastur is capable of mind control or possession, and the shawl is capable of possession, attaching itself to apparent evil. The old monk, by extension, appears to be in control of the Mind Flayers, who themselves seem to resemble something from the Cthulhu mythos. The robe corrupted him more and more over time. One thing that's interesting to note is that in the throne room on the portraits of nobles, their faces have been scratched out. After landing the final blow to the old monk's Black Phantom, the Slayer receives the second Archdemon's soul, and now must go in pursuit of the third. It's time to leave Latria. The Slayer heads to a wet and windy island called the Shrine of Storms. This wind-battered island was once the location of worship by the Shadow Men, a group of pagan barbarians who saw the storms as holy and worshipped them as such. These barbarians were led by a shaman, as evidenced by the monumental's description of the person that received one of the 6 archstones.
One to the shaman of the tempest-worshipping Shadowmen.
The island was a place where people would mourn fallen legends, and of course these soul arts were used in this location, although what these rituals looked like or entailed is again open to interpretation, given the vagueness of the lore. But we can clearly get a hint as to one part of the ritual here on the Archstone. We can see a body is being burned. Again, we'll uncover more information about this mysterious island and its practices as we progress. Atop the entrance to the island is a fortress, and ascending the stairs, the Slayer is attacked by seemingly reanimated dead men, skeletons clad head to toe in armour and wielding large ceremonial blades. Archers are there too, firing arrows imbued with magic. Fighting his way through them and defeating a vanguard demon, the Slayer moves into some underground tunnels and discovers a man inside a cell. Freeing him, he's called Blige, and he's a grave robber. He shares some information about the shrine.
This shrine was used in a ghastly ritual by an ancient tribe. They have long perished, and now the demons have put the souls to work. At least here you're killing things that are already dead, like skeletons and shadow lurkers. That's what I like about this place. Better than killing those poor, soul-starved humans, right? This is where the ancient barbarians offered their honoured heroes to the storm. To seek storms in life and meet storms in death. That was the warrior's code. But all that's left here now is a fine pile of dust.
Blige had gone to the island after having heard of treasures there. He got tricked by someone we've met already, Patches. As Blige just mentioned earlier, the barbarians would offer their honoured heroes to the storm. The first archstone of the Shrine of Storms also mentions flying beasts. It says that these flying beasts appearing has resulted in the souls of the dead being lured to the island, and that these souls are entering the skeletal remains of the undead and giving them life, essentially. These flying beasts in the skies are carriers of souls, of course, but also a green ore called Cloudstone, which is used to fortify shields against magic, as Cloudstone contains light-blocking properties. But let's continue on. The Slayer comes to a fog gate, and after dealing with a troublesome guardian standing at the fog gate, the Slayer enters and has to do battle against the Adjudicator. As its name suggests, as adjudicate means to preside over or to judge, people on the island would take their deceased to the Adjudicator, and the Adjudicator would judge whether or not they were worthy of being taken down the ritual path. These deceased were judged according to the description on the Adjudicator's shield, which features a scene of the dead facing their judgment. It says that the subject, dubbed the Hero of Storms, is to live a life of courage, and that he is not to devour a single bird of the sky. This indicates that the birds were perhaps sacred to these people. The large beast has a golden bird on his head, called the Harvest Gold Crow, and this bird is described as the Master. The bird is the Adjudicator and the demon. The large body is just a host. Anyway, if the owner of the body before the Adjudicator had been judged to have committed either of these things, then their body would be gnawed upon until, well, it was gone. Battling the Adjudicator, it has an open wound with a blade sticking out of it, meaning that either it tried to end itself due to imminent corruption because of the fog, or someone very large had attacked it, but again, who knows. The Adjudicator is guarding the ritual path, and the Slayer needs to progress. Whacking the large beast a few times causes him to fall, and the Slayer gives the crow a few whacks and kills it. That's another demon's soul collected. Side note is that turning this demon's soul into a weapon gives the meat cleaver. It describes the cleaver of having cut delectable cuts of meat. This indicates that the large body got fat due to eating the many demon slayers that passed through on the island, as detailed in the description for the regeneration miracle. So after the deceased person's life was judged to be worthy of the ritual, and after the dead had been adorned with a token of their heroism, they would be taken along the ritual path by the Shadow Men. This is a perilous trek across narrow ledges, as the Slayer themselves would also discover. This task is made all the more difficult by the attacking skeletons and the flying beasts, who shoot a large green glowing shard at them. The bodies are then cleansed by what's called bright water. This rare glowing water is found deep within the shrine, and is a liquid that has been refined for its magical properties. Its properties allow the consumer to regenerate their magical power over time. Slugs sat in the bright water drop sticky white slime, which imbues a weapon with magical power. These fallen heroes are then mourned by the storm. Moving along the ritual path, the Slayer enters a strange area where a Reaper appears to be summoning and commanding a load of spirits. Could these be the spirits of the Shadow Men? The Reaper himself could be a shaman. Not the shaman who was given the Archstone, but a lower level shaman, as there's a few of them present in the shrine. Anyhow, Blige tells the Slayer of Demons that he's heard something.
Have you been to the altar where the Reapers summon shadows? Well, I think someone may be trapped in the lower cavity. I heard them praying for dear life. Pity the poor fool. He probably fell for one of Patch's old tricks.
Investigating, he can come across the devious Patches. He talks about treasure down in a pit, and looking over the edge, Patches kicks him down there, telling him that once he is dead, he'll rob his corpse and sell everything he has on him. Down there, the Slayer encounters Saint Urbain.
Heavens, did you fall for that little devil's trap? Well, I did the same. He fooled me, and now I am stuck here. The reverberations seem to suggest that we are connected to the outside. A fearsome dark phantom stands between us and freedom. But have no fear. God will cleanse us of evil. Pray with me. Umbasa.
seems that Saint Obain's acolyte fled after Patches had sprung a trap and abandoned his leader. Getting rid of the Black Phantom there, Saint Obain thanks the Slayer for his assistance and heads to the Nexus. Later, when speaking with him there, he says to bring him demon souls, and he will cleanse the souls and create miracles from the power of the souls. But getting free now that the path out is clear, Patches of course panics at the appearance of the Slayer and says that he was only joking around and gives him a fancy ring as a way of him apologising. Moving around and coming to the end of the ritual path and moving through the underground Brightwater Springs, the Slayer encounters another fog gate. Moving into the Altar of Storms, a body lies upon the altar. This must be the penultimate step to the ritual, as the body is lying in a pool of bright water, ready for the next step. Anyway, the next opponent the Slayer needs to battle is the Old Hero. So if you want to get an idea of what the Shadow Men were like, I guess the Old Hero is as good a place as any. He's been brought back to life as a result of the colourless fog. He's been adorned with golden jewellery, so this is maybe how he looked at the point that the ritual was at its final stage. He's completely blind, so hunts by sound. So if the Slayer is really quiet and launches surprise or quick attacks before retreating quietly, the Old Hero will go down pretty easily. Not much else is known about the Old Hero, but one interesting thing is that when using his demon soul to craft the miracle's second chance, the miracle indicates that it wasn't created in line with the pagan worship carried out by the Shadow Men, but it was instead created as a denouncing of it, the church's rebuttal to the Shadow Men's worship of the deceased. After the ritual path and performing the ritual itself, the fallen heroes' bodies were then offered to the Storm King. This is the Storm King. This beast, which resembles a stingray according to the Archstone, is a